Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is Force with some more Friday Night Magic. Today we will be playing the Unfinished Business deck. This is a Living Death Graveyard Fetch deck with some control, counterspell draw, fun stuff like that. Let's go ahead and keep this hand, not too shabby. We got two islands, a swamp, the Gas Lord, which is kind of a crazy card. I'll run you through that in a second. First, let's go ahead and throw a swamp in play. Pass it over to the opponent. All right, so for 5 costs, we can either play pay blue or black in order to pay its casting costs. It's a 4/4, can't be blocked. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, they reveal their hand, and I choose a card from it and force them to exile it. Not too shabby. Also have the Doomblade for removal, Undermine for control, and then we've got some card draw here with Sift. So yeah, that's pretty much the idea. We've got some big creatures, we've got some graveyard fetch, so we can either try to get them in our graveyard and pull them back with Living Death or Exhume, or we could just hard cast them, which is, it looks like what will probably happen here with the Gas Lord. He will probably be hard cast because I don't have any graveyard fetch right now. And yeah, it's just pretty interesting. We'll have to see how it plays out. Now, our opponent here is playing mono blue, and fairies. Okay, so he's gonna pop the Pestermite in play. Enters the battlefield, he may tap or untap target permanent. He's gonna choose to untap his and then play, oh my gosh. Enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless you return another creature you control to its owner's hand. Okay, so he did all of that simply to get that in play. And check this out. In response to him playing that, I'm gonna Doomblade his Pestermite. That way he won't have a creature to return. That's gonna force him to sacrifice this creature. You guys ready? Making a choice, boom, just like that. No choice to be made. How glorious, how glorious indeed. All right, turn 3, we are going to throw down an island. This will allow me to do my Undermine, which is a counter spell, plus the spell's controller loses 3 life. We've got the Sift for 4, which we'll be able to do next turn. That's the sorcery, so we'll do that during our main phase. And it looks like he's got nothing going on. So I think we're just going to attempt to Sift here. Let's see if he counterspells it. So it's draw 3 and then discard a card. So we're gonna choose a card to discard that we want to pull back from our graveyard. We could either go with the demon, we could go with, this would actually be very, very good. Yeah, we're gonna go with this. We're gonna go with that. We're gonna put that in our graveyard. So the whole idea is that we have drawn into a Living Death, and we're going to be able to then pull creatures from our graveyard into play with said Living Death. See beyond, draw 2 cards, then shuffle a card from your hand into your library. No other way to pull a creature into our graveyard at the moment, unfortunately. And he has a lot untapped, so you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just going to try to hard cast my creatures. So we're gonna try to hard cast the Gas Lord. If it gets counterspelled, we can still return it with Living Death. If it stays in play, well then great. So it didn't get counterspelled. He still has the option to bounce it back. That's something that we potentially have to worry about. And bounce back in Magic is, or you can do that. Or you can do that. Put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of target artifact or creature, and then it's got the Cipher ability. That's really annoying. And let me just show you here. So with the Cipher ability, whatever spell Cipher resolves, you may exile a card encoded on a creature you control, as long as the card encoded. So basically, when he does damage to me, he gets to recopy Stolen Identity. Now, unfortunately, I can't Doomblade it. So I think the play here is going to be a Living Death. What we're gonna do though is first we're gonna move into our combat phase. So we will be attacking him for 4. Okay, I can't Doomblade it because it's a black creature. It's a blue and black creature. So this resolves, and then I get to look at his hand and choose something to discard. So he's got tap target creature and opponent controls. That creature doesn't untap during his next untap step. Enchant opponent, skip your draw step. Whenever enchanted opponent draws a card, you may draw a card. Okay, so this lets him draw a card when I draw a card. That's fine. We're gonna actually get rid of the Hands of Binding. We're gonna exile that one. There we go. So that's what we're gonna exile. And now, since we're done attack phase, this thing is gonna hit me. I can't stop it, and then he's gonna be able to get continuous copies of my creatures. We don't want that to happen, so we're gonna Living Death. Living Death clears the board. Everything that's in play goes bye-bye. And then cards from the graveyard come into play. So creature cards from the graveyard come into play. So he does get the 2 creatures that were in his graveyard. Okay, that's fantastic. But his big problem is this: 5/8 Island Walk, Swamp Walk. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may cast target instant or sorcery card from that player's graveyard without paying its mana cost. That's awesome. So does he have any instant or sorcerers right now in his graveyard? Ooh, yes he does. He has Stolen Identity. So I'm gonna be able to use Stolen Identity essentially. That is fantastic. All right, let's see what he exchange control of 2. Are you serious? That is really awful for me. That is really awful for me. All right. Sacrifice Doom Necromancer, return a card from your graveyard to the battlefield. We could play the Runescarred Demon. The Doomblade, unfortunately, I cannot do it to this because it is a black creature. I can do it to this creature, that's why it's still highlighted as a potential option. This is unbelievable. Let's see. Let's see. I could just throw the Runescarred Demon in play. He's gonna play an instant or sorcery from my graveyard, and he's gonna play Sift or Living Death most likely. Although if he plays the Living Death, I don't think I'll play the Living Death because I have a Gas Sword and he doesn't have anything like that. We're gonna play the Runescarred Demon. It's a 6/6 flyer. So he's gonna be able to hit me with that. It has Island Walk, so I can't stop it. It has Island Walk and Swamp Walk, so I can't stop it. I could just pull an no. If I pull an Exhume, then he'll definitely. I'm just trying to think. I've got the time on this is very limited, unfortunately. So I've got to be. Maybe I'll just pull another Living Death. Yeah, I'm just gonna pull a Living Death. Okay. I'm gonna pull a Living Death because if he doesn't cast Living Death, then I will. Alright, so I'm gonna attack him with this 2/1. This is what he switched with me. So he got that creature, I got this creature. What a dumpy trade. So he's gonna attack me with a 5/8. It's gonna hit because it has Island Walk and Swamp Walk, which means I can't block it if I've got an island or swamp. I have both. And then he's gonna be able to play an instant or sorcerer from my graveyard. So he could play the instant and kill this. He could use the Doomblade. He could use the Sift or the Living Death. He'll probably use the Sift. Now, a big concern for him though is that I'm outpacing him in damage. So that's something he has to be worried about. He's gonna hit me for 5. Now he gets to choose from my graveyard instant or sorcery to play for free. This is annoying. So I've got the Living Death, so I can Living Death to get rid of his 5/8, basically. Let's see what he's gonna choose here. He's gonna choose the Sift. That's pretty much what I expected. And then in the process, he also exiles that card, I believe. So it's not gonna go back into my graveyard, it's removed from play. It's removed from the game, basically. Okay. Now, he's got a lot of lands untapped, which is a concern. Because if I attempt to Living Death, he could counterspell. Now, do I have enough to also undermine? No, I do not. I've got 7. I would need 8 to do that, plus an undermine. Okay, well, I guess. I mean, we can outpace him in damage too. So, I'm just gonna move into the attack phase. Yeah, I'm just gonna move into the attack phase, and I'll hit him for 8. Okay, that's what he's trying to do. Trying to Pestermite. You may tap or untap target permanent. I don't believe that stops it from attacking. So I'm gonna let that go through. I'm pretty sure that the creature still attacks, even if he taps or untaps it. Because attack has already been declared. So yes, that is still attacking. That damage is still going through. Now what he's gonna try to do is he's trying to decide if he wants to declare a blocker. He decides not to. Okay. So all that damage goes through. Okay. Now, the question is, do I try to Living Death? I mean, if I don't need to. I still have this stuff to hit him with. So I don't need to Living Death. I could do this, and that's still gonna allow me to undermine. Yeah, I'm gonna see beyond. counter spell with cost X or less. X is the number of fairies you control. Okay, so let me Doomblade this so that that counter spell won't work. Because he'll only have one fairy in play. So that still resolves, and then I choose a card to put into my library. We're gonna choose the Doom Necromancer. Then we are going to throw a swamp into play, and I also could reanimate. But if I put too many creatures in play, then he's going to choose the Living Death when he hits me. So I actually don't want to do that. He's only going to hit me for 5 next turn. I'm just going to pass. I'm going to pass it over to him. I'm going to pass it over to him. Well, he can hit me for 6, but he's not going to attack with this because he needs to save to block one of my flyers. This is a very interesting game. Alright. Target opponent exiles the top. It's a 5/5 flyer. No, we're going to undermine that. Now, here's a big question. Does he have a counterspell for my counterspell? No, he does not. He's down to 3. He's going to throw 2/1. Okay, so this is a flyer, and he's got to return a creature to his hand. So he's going to return the Stutter Spite to his hand. And then he'll be able to play that as an instant to block my flyers. Now, he's got no cards in hand. Sorry. He's got no cards in hand. So, I know he doesn't have a counterspell, which means I can safely Living Death. And because he's gonna play this to block these guys. Do I even want to Living Death though? He could have played that during my turn. He decides to play it now. So now he's got 2 blockers for my flyers. So the question is, do I want to Living Death? Or do I just attack through both of those, take this 5. He's still at 3. Both his creatures die. And then... yeah, because if I Living Death, then he gets this in play too. Which I don't want that in play. So I think, yeah, I think I'm just going to let this stuff happen. Let's see what he chooses here, though. He's gonna choose the Living Death. Okay. All right. So he gets this 5/5 in play. Oh boy. He's gonna choose to tap that. That's fine. No, wait. I hit him for 4, and it's unblockable. So he just forfeited the game. Maybe unknowingly. I don't know, but he just gave up the game. Yeah. Oh, that's too bad. That was a good game. That's too bad that he made that play to finish it off. Here's a 4/4 unblockable. He's at 3 life. So, yeah. About that. And our second game will be against Mick Martin. All right, let's see. Let's see here. I'm pretty excited. I want to see. I love... oh, no. No. I don't know what I was so excited for. I was excited at the potential of a good opening hand. That's something that's always exciting for me in Magic. Unfortunately, that's not what we got. Well, this is actually okay. It's not great, but yeah, we're gonna keep it. We're gonna keep this hand. We aren't, or should I just open up with Putrid Imp? Yeah, sure. Let's just go ahead. I don't have a potential 2-drop anyway, so might as well open up with the Putrid Imp. And the reason I'm excited for this is because we have the Scion of Darkness, which we're going to be able to throw in the graveyard very early because of the Putrid Imp, and we have a Living Death. So we've got a big creature in our hand, a way to get that creature in the graveyard, and yeah. You know the deal. All right. So let's see. Throw this in play. And attack him for 1. Or save it as a blocker. Yeah, let me just attack him. Let's see if he wants to block. I mean, just having this one guy in play is enough for me. I mean, just having this one guy in the graveyard is enough for me. Okay, he's choosing not to block. All right, fine. So we get damage through. Fantastic. I'm guessing he's got he's gonna be playing into Fairy Pump Up, which is why he didn't block, and that's kind of what I was hoping for. Him to choose to not get rid of his creature. Now we don't have to discard the Scion quite yet, so. Second main phase, nothing. We're gonna dump this, we'll get a blue. And basically, we really just need to hope for some more lands. I need to get 4 lands so that I can sift, which will be good. That's another one of those. All right, so let's go into combat. We will hit him. So we're just gonna be trading. I don't need to discard the Scion before it's necessary. Basically, if he ever decides to target the Putrid Imp, at that point I can get rid of the Scion. No reason to reveal it prior to that point. Okay, so we've got 3, so 1 more land, and we'll be able to sift, which hopefully will get us into another land and maybe another creature to discard, which would be great. Let's see if he does anything second main phase. He does. He's going to throw in a Fairy Inquisitor. Enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless you return another. Okay, so he's going to return a guy to his hand before the set finishes. We're going to do this. I'm going to grab a blue. So now we can undermine. Pass it over to him. Excuse me. Pass it over to him. And there's our another Evolving Wilds. We could cycle that. Actually, I guess that's another choice. Could just cycle this to get it in the graveyard too. I don't want to do that though, because I want to save my 3 to undermine just in case. All right, so we're gonna go into combat phase. If the trend continues, he is gonna let this go through. It continues, okay. I mean, I'll take that free damage so long as he's offering. And we're not gonna cycle, because we want to be able to undermine if it's necessary, depending on what crazy stuff he tries to play. So undermine is my counter spell. Counter target spell, its controller loses 3 life. All right, he's gonna hit me for 2, alrighty. And then he's gonna attempt to play the 1/1 flyer. That is fine, I'm not gonna undermine that. It's not too scary or anything. Okay, then before his end step, we're gonna do this. We're gonna get a black. We are also going to cycle this, so it puts it in our graveyard, plus we draw a card. So, we have the ability to Living Death right now. However, I am not going to do that. I will attempt to Diabolic Tutor though. I'm not gonna Living Death because he might have Counterspell. If he has Counterspell, he'll probably do it for Diabolic Tutor. Return target creature you control to owner's hand, counter target spell. Okay, I see. Okay, so the counter spell goes through. And what did he return? Oh. He should have returned to this, because then he could bounce that back for another counter spell. Okay. Alright, well, not great, but we have his... Oh boy, yes, right, gotcha. Okay, I actually thought that was a fairy at first. That's not a fairy. All right, so let's go into, but that's fine. So he's used up his counterspell now. He's used up his counterspell. So if he taps out in an upcoming turn, then I can safely Living Death, and that was sort of what I was hoping for. Either one of 2 things. Either it was going to resolve, and I would have gotten a second creature for a more effective Living Death, or it would bait a counter, and it baited a counter, so that's okay. Yeah. So he's gonna attack with a 2/1, that's fine, that goes through. I'm just praying he taps out, I need him to tap out. But he seems to be playing fairly conservatively, so. Actually, at this point. All right, let's see if he has another counterspell. Let the Sif go through. Draw 3, discard a card. Oh boy, I actually don't want to discard. Let's discard a Swamp. And we've got the Doomblade. I can wait. I'm just gonna wait. And this is also a 2/2 because I've got my threshold met. As long as you have 7 or more cards in your graveyard, Putrid Imp gets +1/+1 and can't block. So now he's stronger. Okay. So now we will move into the attack phase. We'll swing for 2. Bring him down to 14. We've got our Doomblade. I'm not going to do it now. I'm going to hold on to it, because I can do it during his turn when he attacks. If he plays a fairy that pumps up his other fairies, I can try to Doomblade that. If he counterspells the Doomblade, then the Living Death goes through. Ba-bam. But again, he's been playing super conservatively, so we'll have to see. Alright, so I actually don't want to Doomblade. Yeah. This is just very interesting. Alright. I need one more land to safely Living Death plus have my counterspell available. So we're gonna go with another Sift here. Draw 3 cards, discard a card. Jeez. No, this is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Let's discard the Petri Dump. Yeah, we've got a reanimate that we could do. Which I could use to try to pull my Scion. I'd lose 5, 6, 7, 8 life. That's way too much life to lose. Does he have any creatures I want to pull? No. Alright. Just attack. Okay. And then we are passing the turn. Oh, this is intense. This is intense. He's been playing super conservatively, saving mana, which I know is likely for a counterspell. Okay, so I'm gonna attempt to undermine that. Let's see if we can. Okay, so actually the undermine resolves. Wow. I'm guessing he doesn't have a counterspell then. I'm guessing he doesn't have another counterspell, or else he would have played it, right? This is crazy. All right, here we go. First things first. Swing for 2. He's gonna. Oh, this is perfect. Well, actually. Okay, this is perfect. Living Death. And Doomblade him, so then he has to sacrifice the fairy. Yes! Oh. Yes! Alright, now, does he have something to clear our board, to bounce back, whatever? We've got the Scion of Darkness. 6/6 trample. Deals combat damage to a player. You may put target creature card from that player's graveyard into the battlefield under your control. He's gonna play this. Enters the battlefield, gain control of a creature as long as Sower of Temptation remains on the battlefield. Doomblade. Sower of Temptation is gone. We get our creature back. We still have another Living Death. Oh man. Alright, going to combat phase. We will attack him for 4. Also going to grab a Sea Beyond. It's gonna let us draw 2 cards and shuffle a card into our library. We go ahead and shuffle. Want that, want that. I guess we can shuffle a Reanimate. Shuffle a Reanimate down. Now, do we want to reanimate in one of his things? We could reanimate. Oh, actually, a lot of these things would be pretty decent choices. But on hit, like if he plays a creature, I could reanimate his Sower of Temptation and take his creature. All right, but not right now. Don't want to do anything like that. Maybe we just play the Doom Necromancer though. No, I don't want to overextend or anything. Don't want to go too crazy, so we're not going to play the Doom Necromancer. We've got Fatal in play. If he plays a creature, we can take it with Reanimate. Alright, nothing crazy is going on. He is going to play a Pestermite. Enter the battlefield, do my tap or untap, target permanent. Okay, I can't really do anything to stop that. So he's going to tap my 6/6 trample is what he's doing here. We're going to play this. I will now move into attack phase and swing him with this. He's going to block one of them. So he blocks that. His thing dies. My second thing goes through. Then I will attempt to play Sphinx. Why did it... I tapped 4 blue. It should have only tapped 3. I could have decided that. Like, I could have made it so that it only tapped 3, but I'm just surprised it automatically tapped 4 instead of leaving 1 blue and 1 black. Usually it's kind of smart. Okay. Taps a blue or black, taps like target opponent, exiles top X card to the library. For each card chosen, color this way, put a 1/1 blue. He only had 1 to tap, so he revealed nothing. Because you have to do a blue or black and then X, and he only had 1 mana untapped, so what were you doing? Okay, so he's got a blocker. Although we've got more than fatal damage, I am going to play a reanimate. I am going to take his Sower of Temptation. And then with his Sower of Temptation, I'm going to take his 5/5 blocker. I know. It's kind of unnecessary. It made him leave the game, but I just wanted to, you know, make sure covering all the bases and whatnot. Hit for 14, and that is the game. And that does it for this week's episode of Friday Night Magic. Let's wrap it up by taking a look at the deck list for Unfinished Business. Got a few Evolving Wilds, 3 to be exact. The Putrid Imp, got 2 of those in play by the end of the second game. This is what easily allows us to get our creatures in the graveyard, allowing us to then graveyard fetch. With things like Reanimate, it's 1 black. I choose a creature from any graveyard, and I lose life equal to its converted mana cost, but I get it right in the battlefield. So it can be very, very good, especially super early on if I get a creature. So if I turn 1, if I turn 1 Putrid Imp and then discard a huge creature immediately, and then reanimate, sure, I'm going to lose a lot of life, but then I've got a massive creature in play, and that can sometimes be a game winner in and of itself. Doomblade for some non-black creature removal. We've got the Sea Beyond for some card draw. Exhume, which is also graveyard fetch, although your opponent could potentially benefit from this as well if they've got creatures in their graveyard. The Cunning Lethamancer, so at the beginning of my upkeep, each player discards a card. Again, good for me if I'm discarding those creature cards, and potentially bad for my opponent if they're discarding things that they could want to use. If they don't have graveyard fetch, then it's not going to do them as good. Except for it will still work with a Living Death if they're discarding creatures, of course. We have a Doomed Necromancer to pull creatures from a graveyard. I almost feel like I might have too much graveyard fetch in this. I might want to change it up a little bit for some more control or something. Undermine, counter target spell, its controller loses 3 life. Consult the Necro Sages, again, either use it for the card draw, or if you've got 2 creatures in your hand and you have no other way to discard them, use it to discard them, and then play your Living Death. Victimize, choose 2 target creature cards in your graveyard, sacrifice the creature. If you do, return the chosen cards into the battlefield tapped. It's about as ridiculously awesome as it sounds. Sift, draw 3 cards, then discard a card, very nice. For hand advantage. Diabolic Tutor to search through for any card, and then we start moving into some of our big creatures. We've got Gas Lord, the 4/4 unblockable. If it deals damage, the opponent reveals their hand. I choose a card, they exile it. River Kelpie, it's the 3/3 for 5. When this or another permanent is put onto the battlefield from a graveyard, draw a card. Whenever a player casts a spell from a graveyard, draw a card. Plus it has persist, which means if it dies, it comes back. So basically you want to get this in your graveyard, and then if you've got like 2 or 3 creatures in your graveyard and then you Living Death, this comes into play, and you're drawing cards off of those creatures, which is really awesome. Beacon of Unrest as a graveyard fetch, pulls a card from a graveyard, put it in the battlefield, and then you shuffle Beacon of Unrest into your library. 2 of the Living Deaths for the mass graveyard removal, graveyard fetch, as well as mass removal for the board. We've got the Rise from the... I think I really do have a bit too much of the actual graveyard fetch, so I might want to switch this up a little bit, excuse me. The Risen Deep, 5/8 Island Walk, Swamp Walk. If it hits a player, you get to take an instant or sorcery card from their graveyard and play it without paying its mana cost. Sphinx here is a 6/6 for 6 flying, tap 3, put a 1/1 counter on it, and draw a card. Ruined Scarred Demon, a 6/6 for 7, it comes into play, and then you basically are casting a Demonic Tutor at the same time. Excuse me, a Diabolic Tutor. So it's a 6/6, it comes into play, it's got flying, and it lets you search your library for a card, put it in your hand. Tidespout Tyrant, it's a 5/5 flying. Whenever you cast a spell, return target permanent to its owner's hand. Basically removing creatures or even lands or any other permanent your opponent controls from play. And then the Scion of Darkness, the 6/6 trample, you can cycle it. If it deals damage to a player, take a creature card from that player's graveyard, put it in the battlefield under your control. That is a deck. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Friday Night Magic. Tune in next Friday for another episode. Hope you guys have a fantastic day. Keep watching and keep owning.